We're heading into our big draft weekends, and if you're looking for rankings and tiers, look no further than right here on RotoWire, and we'll start with quarterbacks. We'll make this easy. We'll start from the top and then we'll move down to the bottom. Now, keep in mind, this is separated in tiers. I do have these players ranked within the tiers, but for the most part, they have similar value. And I did base this off projections that I've made. So a lot of these players that I'm talking about within the same bucket are within one, at most, maybe 2 points per game difference. And to give you some extra added context, I do prioritize a rushing floor over, let's just say, safety of like a Jared Goff. But we'll start off right away. Right at the top, it's Lamar Jackson. This guy is the standard when it comes to rushing quarterbacks. He was only second behind Joe Burrow in passing touchdowns. That includes all that rushing that he did for us. Lamar's just a scoring machine, and he's probably going to lead all players in total fantasy points. I don't hate if you want to reach for QB in your 1 QB leagues and redraft. If you're playing best ball, I highly recommend taking one of the big 4 quarterbacks, but you tend to want to be one of the last 4 picks when you try to do that chicken. So keep that in mind. I am big on what Lamar Jackson can do for you on a points per game basis, even on someone with a high floor, let's say like Justin Fields, because of that rushing. You're talking about 25 points per game versus 19. Keep it simple, stupid. Do you want the highest scorer on your team? Go get Lamar Jackson. Next, it's Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen. The only thing that might be a head scratcher is Josh Allen is last in this tier. Again, we're talking about maybe 1 point per game difference, and he's going to have plenty of spike weeks, and I don't hate if you're going to take him early. The big reason why I don't enjoy taking Josh Allen is because if you're a best ball player, I hate most of his stacks. A lot of times if you're going to take Josh Allen, it doesn't feel good if you want to reach for Josh Palmer or Dalton Kincaid. But more importantly, I do have a little bit of regression baked into the price, meaning that he's been adamant and the Bills have been adamant that they don't want him to rush as more. And when that happens, that is going to take a little bit off the top there. Again, I am not saying that you don't want Josh Allen. I'm just probably going to pick Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, and Jalen Hurts. The last one I want to talk about this in this tier, because these are all great quarterbacks, is Joe Burrow. I am way more bullish on Burrow than I have been, because normally he would be last in this tier, but I'm unsure if you've been watching the preseason. The Bengals are bad. They already want to trade Trey Hendrickson, and I don't understand why. They got ran through all last year, and it doesn't look like anything's changed. So when you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow on the other side of the offense, we can expect that they're going to have 30 points per game just to win week in and week out. And I'm all in on that offense at price. I know I've been very bullish, and I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth when I talk about a rushing floor. Joe Burrow is the rare case where I don't think that matters. Moving on to the A tier, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, CJ Stroud, and Dak Prescott. This looks much different than what average draft position may depict in your leagues, especially if you're drafting on ESPN or Yahoo. But when you weigh out projections, and especially if you're thinking about if this player is healthy, some of these surprises and how high they aren't as surprising as you may think. Why is Caleb Williams at the top of this tier? Well, we're super excited about Drake Maye, who has a rushing floor and improved weapons. Caleb Williams has much better weapons. They've been working 3 years to improve this offensive line. They just brought on Ben Johnson, and he has the same rushing floor. It's not hard to predict a lot of touchdowns and 400 yards on the ground. You have Roma Dunze to throw to, DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet. Luther Burden is your 5th option, and that's just with actual pass catchers. This doesn't include DeAndre Swift, and this is coming in a system like the Lions had, where they really utilize a running back as a pass catcher. Ben Johnson likes to utilize all areas of the field. So for someone like Caleb Williams, who, yes, doesn't do as well as some, let's say, Jared Goff does in a timing offense, it doesn't mean he can't learn that skill. And what we've seen in the preseason, he looks more than comfortable, and I think he has the ability to put up lots of points. Bo Nix is someone else I'm incredibly bullish on because, again, take a shot every time you hear it. He has a rushing floor, and the Broncos look stout. At the end of last season, they looked a lot better in comparison to where they started. They brought in RG Harvey. They bring in Evan Ingram. Sean Payton's team looks like it's ready to take the next step, and I'm in on it at cost. The other two in these lists, CJ Stroud and Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has been a top 3 QB in this league when he has been healthy. The only thing that makes me worried about this offense is Brian Schottenheimer. But if they continue to deteriorate on defense, it's the same situation that we're seeing with the Bengals. They're going to throw early and often. They have CeeDee Lamb and now George Pickens. Jake Ferguson is a quality third target in this offense. Dak Prescott could be a league winner at his cost, and I am ranking him according to that upside. I'm not going to let average draft position dictate how I rank and tier these players, because remember, that's just a structure to show you where other people are drafting. This doesn't have to be where you are drafting. Now, keep in mind, you can take these tiers and rankings and apply that to your average draft position, meaning that, hey, I'm not going to take Justin Fields here because I can wait a little bit on CJ Stroud, because I'm 100% ranking CJ Stroud ahead of someone like Fields. That's because the Texans try to fix their problems that they had last season. They lost Tank Dell. They lost Nico Collins. They lost Stephon Diggs. So what do? Nico Collins is back. They go get Jalen Noel, trade for Christian Kirk, and Jaden Higgins is already locked in as a wide receiver too, and they gave him guaranteed money. A high volume passing offense isn't out of the question, and they know that they can win the AFC South. I'm way in on CJ Stroud ahead of the market. Same thing for Dak Prescott. Before we move on to our B tier, if you like this content, hit the like, subscribe button. Helps us continue to get videos like this to your feed. And again, we're hitting in our draft season, and we're going to shift into having weekly waiver videos, making sure that we're helping you dominate your leagues, even when you're into week 6. So if you want to go over to RotoWire.com, use the code YouTube15. We can give you 50% off your RotoWire subscription, so you can use tools like our trade analyzer and our draft kit to keep you ready. Now, we'll jump right back into it. Moving down to the B tier, if I don't get some of the big 4 QBs, this is where I shop a lot of the times, because the QBs in this tier like Kyler Murray, Justin Fields, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Herbert, with the exception of Justin Herbert, they all have a rushing floor, so we could see these spike weeks. Kyler Murray, as much as I've been incredibly bullish and think he has that top 5 upside, until Drew Petzing is there, it's hard for me to see a lot of that upside within the passing game. A lot of this offense is going to flow through Trey McBride. I don't quite think we're going to see the ceiling of Marvin Harrison Jr., and it's going to be more the same last season. That's not to say that he's going to suck, but if you're expecting MHJ to come out there and then put out a top 5 season and you're drafting him as such, I think you're going to be a little bit disappointed. I do have a little bit more rushing baked into the cost, but it's hard to see him outperforming a lot of these other guys week in and week out if they don't make changes to these offense. Justin Fields was someone that I was incredibly bullish on, and he'd normally be within the 8 tier, but I am growing increasingly more concerned about the Jets offense as we see them struggle week in and week out. We're even starting to hear that from Aaron Glenn. Now, it's early, it's just preseason. We could see this improvement, but we're going into year 5 of Justin Fields. I think we know what kind of player he is more and more, and if we don't see that passing take shape, we're solely relying on the running game, and that's great for fantasy if he starts. So the big risk here is if he's going to continue to see snaps behind center when Tyrod Taylor's there. We know this is a new coaching staff, so they could draft someone next year, but they bought Justin Fields for 2 years, so keep that in mind. Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Herbert, I love these people. Justin Herbert is someone that you can get incredibly late. If you're going to be doing some of these best ball tournaments, he's easily a QB2, but I think this is where you want to target safety. And we forget that they've done a lot to improve the weapons around him by drafting Trey Harris. Keandre Lambert-Smith has seemed to take a step forward. Aronde Gadsden's in town now. I haven't even mentioned Quentin Johnston, who improved last season, but we don't need him to be the wide receiver 1 anymore. We don't even need him to be the wide receiver 3, and I think he's perfectly acceptable within his usage in this offense. So when you consider that Justin Herbert does have a little bit of scoot to him, and if we measure in a little bit of uptick in a passing volume, even with them having Amari and Hampton, I think we could see an efficient offense that could get us a lot of touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence is someone that I'm arguably overweight on because I'm in on this entire Jags offense, and he's one of the easiest stackable QBs that I don't feel like I have to reach for, even if I need to take him around to ahead of average draft position. He was averaging almost 18 points per game in a lesser offense with a lesser group of pass catchers around him. There was only Brian Thomas Jr. last year. Evan Ingram was out for a big chunk of that season. Christian Kirk was injured. I think that with the addition of Travis Hunter, with Brian Thomas Jr. hopefully continue to pick up where he took off last season, and the slew of backfield targets that they have. Even Britton Strange looked decent last year. Trevor Lawrence could be the Baker Mayfield that we had last season, where you're taking someone with one of your last QB picks and he has weekly top 5 upside if we do see these spike weeks, and if we do see the Jaguars simulate anything from what we've seen from the Buccaneers last season. Next, we'll move on to our C tier. Like I just mentioned earlier, Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, JJ McCarthy, Patrick Mahomes, and Jared Goff. These are all high passing volume, or at least have the floor for high passing volume. My favorite within this tier is JJ McCarthy because he does have a rushing floor. I had to be modest with JJ McCarthy's projections because we just haven't seen it. When you think about just projecting him at his floor, the ceiling is there in a very exciting offense led by Kevin O'Connell. We saw Sam Darnold be revitalized within this offense. So when you have someone like JJ McCarthy who has sat back with injury, but has looked decent from what we've seen in a small sample size, this is a key target if you're wanting to fade QB that has upside for your QB1, and you could pair him with someone like Patrick Mahomes or Jared Goff. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is in the C tier. He just doesn't run like some of these other people, but he is one of the safer QBs in this list. He's one of the safest QBs overall, just because we know that he's going to have that safety already baked into his cost, and we know that he could have touchdown spike weeks. I will say I do feel much better about him outperforming his ADP than I did last season, because they put out so much effort in improving this receiving core and even preparing for life without Rashee Rice. Moving along down to the D tier, Bryce Young, Michael Penix Jr., Sam Darnold, Cam Ward, Geno Smith. This is the last stop to where you have quote unquote safety. Bryce Young barely made the cut from the last tier. I do expect him to outperform where I have him ranked, but we only saw what we saw last season within a limited sample size, and he did have to get benched to get there. So that's why I'm being modest with him. Michael Penix Jr., probably the favorite within this list beyond Geno Smith, just because I am being modest with his projections. You could easily see him throw for over 35 touchdowns, well over 4,000 yards, and play more into the top end of that C tier than where you're getting him. But I'm just being realistic on that floor. You have to love the weapons around him. Drake London, Darnell Mooney looked good last year. Ray McCloud was something. And I know this is ugly to say, but Kyle Pitts not coming in and expected to be Travis Kelce, maybe being a consistent second or third target, and maybe being healthy, seeing as he's been injured for 2 seasons, could be a valuable pick, seeing as we have finally ranked him reasonably. I like what's around Michael Penix Jr., and I haven't even mentioned Bijan Robinson. Geno Smith is another one who seems to be a discount year in and year out, and I'm willing to wait on QB2 because Geno Smith is there. I love Chip Kelly. I really believe in what the Raiders are doing from a team building standpoint since Tom Brady's been in that room. I was even skeptical of Pete Carroll till I've seen all the moves that they've done afterwards. Really in on the Raiders, and especially at cost. We'll finish it off with our last tier, the E tier. Anthony Richardson, Tua Tagovailoa, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Jackson Dart, Shadir Sanders, Spencer Rattler, Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones, and Joe Flacco. We have the olds here that probably on their last legs, probably on their last season. Then we have injury prone or maybe prospects. Jackson Dart and Shadir Sanders are the interesting ones here because they're not going to be starting week 1, and you're probably stashing them for week 2 or for week 4, 5, 6 and beyond. If you're in a 1 QB league, they're probably not even being drafted, and if anything, you're going to hold and stash if you waited on QB to see what happens. I don't like shopping in this tier at all. If I'm in Superflex, I like Anthony Richardson just for the gamble, because getting a QB3 is a lot more acquirable than, let's say, getting a QB2, and we finally have him ranked accordingly. Remember, guys, QB doesn't have to be hard. You just need to consider the coaching around them, the weapons around them, if they have the support. QB is about nurture just as much as nature, and I kind of have these ranked ahead of time. If you have any questions, feel free to put those in the comments. As always, I'm Jagger. Make sure to like, subscribe. Love you guys. See you on the next one.